Okay, guys, if you don't mind, I believe it will be a good time to start. I'm really glad to see all of you on this webinar. It was a pretty long technical pause. Hope in future we're going to conduct our webinars with a standard frequency, and it's mean about 1-2 sessions per month. Today we're going to start, let's say so, start new sessions of our meetings. And just to remind how I usually conduct our meetings. By default, assuming that during the session, you will be able to raise your question. Please use the chat to post your question. All these questions will be collected, and with help of the moderators, we will prepare the list of the question, and in the end of the session, it will be announced, and our presenter will be able to answer this question. If it happens that it will be too many questions, no issue at all. All questions will be answered, but potentially it will be done a little bit later. So all our session will be published in the channel, YouTube channel. We will share the links in the common chat, and by default in the same channel will be announced all of the question and all answer for this question. Looks like it's clear for everyone, and let's start. Dima, it's your turn. Could you please step in and explain what exactly you're going to say about the Kafka Connect today?
Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to see you. And today we are planning to discuss about Kafka Connect technology, about advantages and disadvantages about this platform. And short introduction, my name is Dmitry Loika. I'm lead software engineer in EPAM company. I have more than 10 years experience in the integration projects. Main platform is Tipka. But I will be involved in another project and use different technologies. And one of them is Kafka Connect and Kafka Connector. And let's go. Today we are described what is Kafka Connect, shortly speaking about basic principles, looking for non-functional requirements which we can implement or can implement using this technology, and provide a short summary about this technology stack. What is the Kafka Connect? Kafka Connect, it's a free open source component provided by Apache Kafka community. It's a framework for connecting Kafka with different external systems like a database, key value stores, some REST services, etc., etc. And one of the important part of Kafka Connect, it's Kafka Connectors. It's ready-to-use components which can implement different kind of integration protocols, and you can choose what we need in case if you need to use some HTTP endpoints, you can use HTTP connector. If you want to work with database, you can use different JDBC connectors, etc., etc. And how you can see in this picture, the
Dima,
most...
sorry, looks like we still see the main picture, Kafka Connect, just introduction. Could you please verify what's going on? Have you shared the right screen?
Yes. Which screen you see right now?
The first one with the topic of the discussion, so nothing has changed. Could you please reshare your screen once again?
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Now it's changed, and
Okay.
we see the slide. What is a Kafka Connect?
Yep. Okay, let's move on. And how you can see in this screen, mostly you can see different types of database. That's mean if we deep dive into source code of this technology, and if we're looking for most used Kafka connectors like Debezium, that means this technology more prefer for make integration between the database, collect data from table, put into Kafka, and after that provide to another system. How Kafka Connect works? Kafka Connect, it's a standalone application that's configured to connect to the Kafka. That means we always work with Kafka. Kafka Connect have different deployment mode, not different, only two. It's a standalone and distributed mode. And you can choose what better to you right now. If you are locally develop or debugging something or test, better to choose standalone mode. In production, better use distributed mode. Kafka Connect runs as a cluster of worker process, and each worker process installs a connector and runs the tasks. And about types of Kafka Connect. Kafka Connect always provide to us two types. It's a source connector and scene connector. Source connectors already take information from some system and put this information into Kafka. And scene connector always have one road. He collect information from Kafka and publish to the target system. Where to find Kafka Connect? I think the most suitable place to find different Kafka connectors, it's a Confluent. And guys from Confluent community already prepare and distribute different kind of very popular components, which we can use on his enterprise environment. But some of these components payable, some is free. Another place where you can find connectors, it's exactly in GitHub. In GitHub, a lot of different implementation of Kafka Connect, but you need to know this implementation relevant for this guy who implemented. That means sometimes you didn't find some needed to you functionality, and sometimes you need to modify source code and implement it. And another great place where you can find it, it's Camel Kafka connectors. Apache Camel community develop and provide to us a very big list of ready-to-use Kafka connectors. But still, these connectors is not ready to production. And Red Hat company who distribute a lot of to Camel community didn't provide to us use it in production. And now speak about configuration. Configuration of Kafka Connect connectors, it's very easy. You can choose again two different ways. You can use application property files where you can define all needed properties with all needed value, or use very powerful REST API, which provided from Kafka Connect infrastructure. For our project, we choose second one and use REST API because it's easy, it's more flexible, and you already can automatize this process. Here you can see a list of most popular API which you can use. It's not all. It's more than I share to you right now, but here you can manipulate with Kafka connectors for different way. You can create connectors, configure connectors, run, check configuration, check status, delete or remove connector, etc., etc. It's very useful and can use it on monitoring part, on some troubleshooting part. Yep. About deployment. You can deploy your Kafka connectors using Docker. Use already prepared image by Confluent, and what only you need to do is define the mod in which you can deploy it and specify the path to the jar file of your own Kafka connector. And now start discussing about non-functional requirements. It's about monitoring and tracing. Monitoring topic more easy to describe because you can implement it using some common tools like Prometheus, but you need to know when you launching some monitoring, you do it for all Kafka Connect cluster. And you can't monitor concrete Kafka connectors. That means in your monitoring metrics, you didn't see some discrete information about what happened on connector side. And when we are speaking about tracing, it's more difficult topic because out of the box, Kafka Connect and Kafka Connector didn't support tracing. And if you already have this non-functional requirement, you need to or certify this or do this implementation itself. But Kafka connectors didn't provide to us a lot of place where we can add some change in this code. That means we have only two, and I share you this information in another slide, only two places where I can make some manipulation. It's a transformation layer and conversion layer. That means only in this part you can add some custom code which implement tracing. But we have another way how implement tracing. You can develop your Kafka connectors on Scratch and pre-build some templates where you include all needed functionality. And after that, use this template for building different kind of connectors. About logging. Here we have the same situation like monitoring. Log format is defined globally for the entry Kafka Connect cluster. That means if you need different log format for different connectors, it's not possible. I think in most cases, this topic is not relevant because in big enterprise or doesn't matter where, if you already have some standard log format, but if you need it, some different, you need to implement it in the source code. And same situation with logging level. You can define logging level globally, not for concrete Kafka connectors. Which problem here we have? Sometimes in our project from our customer, we have a requirement collecting information, logging information in JSON. And this JSON have a very big structure and not easy to read when you try to debug something, understand what happened with your connector. And sometimes you want to change it. But if you change it globally for all instances, for all Kafka connectors. And additionally, in log, you see not only information which logged by Kafka connectors. You can see information about Kafka connector, platform, and other things. It's redundant information, and sometimes you need to filtrate it. It's possible when you can create some integration with Elastic, you filtrate this information on this layer, but if you try to open log file into Linux environment, it's very difficult to read. And now discussing about error handling. It's a very interesting topic because how I said previously, we have two types of Kafka connectors. It's a sink and source, but by design, error handling out of the box implemented only on sink part. That means in source part, you can't make error handling, but you can make some custom implementation, define the LQ topic, add some source code in your template, and it's possible, but it's a workaround. Out of the box, error handling on sink part have three different options. It's error tolerance none. That means if something went wrong on your connector, you stopped, didn't log nothing, and didn't put information in the dead letter queue. Error tolerance all mean that if something went wrong in your connector continue work, and didn't matter which kind of error except on this connector. And
Dima,
the last
sorry for
one,
interrupting you. Don't you mind to make a step back and explain the difference between sink and source connector? So what does it mean, sink connector? What does it mean, source connector?
okay. Source connector already have only one way of communication. Source connector already work on polar mode. That means source connector triggered some system, take some data, and already put into Kafka. That means only one way of communication, take information from the system and put to the Kafka. Sink connector have another way of communication. This connector already take information from Kafka and publish this information to the target system. It's a global solution, and Kafka already between. If you need to transfer data from database to some system which work over HTTP, you need to create JDBC source connector, which collect information from database, and you need to create HTTP sink connector, which takes this information from Kafka and post this information to the system. I hope I explained
Thank you very much.
difference
Yes.
between these two types of connectors. Okay, back to the error handling. And the last option of error handling, it's a way when we where our connector, in case of some error, continue his work, but push message which failed in dead letter queue. I think in most cases this behavior more suitable because you didn't miss information about failed message and can create some error hospital and reprocess this message when you understand what happened and what's wrong with. What can we manage? How as said previously, by default, out of the box, if you use some already prepared Kafka connectors, you can manipulate only on converter part and transform part. That means you can add additional Java classes which implemented conversion logic and some transformation logic. In one hand, it's good because you didn't need to think about how collect information from source system, how put this information to the Kafka. Only what you need to do, it's provide right converting or transformation rules. But in another hand, in most cases, you need to implement another part of logic. How we say previously, if you need a tracing, I hope you want to see all elements of this chain and want to take information from all part of your integration flow. That means you wanted to know how many time do you spend on when start connector, how many time spend it on pulling and maybe or putting information to the Kafka. And now we are discussing about what we understand when we try to use this technology and with which technology like alternative we can provide to you. In case of Kafka Connect, it's one standalone application building on Java. That means this application have common class path. What does it mean? In case if you have two different Kafka connectors, and these Kafka connectors use some library with additional functionality, but version of this library is different, in some cases you can fail because class path is common and collect information only about last version of library which ran. Another topic is everything stored in memory. What does it mean? In case if something went wrong in the middle of your connectors, you miss the data. No data streaming option. Yes, it's very important because sometimes when we're working with big files, you wanted to stream data and push this data to Kafka, but it's not possible. You need to read whole file and manipulate in memory. Application isolation. It's about noisy. This means what? All our connectors running in workers. And if something went wrong with one of them, maybe this connector failed or increase memory part or CPU, it's impact for all connectors running in these workers. And you need to quickly do something, maybe stop or relaunch it. And the next topic is know exactly once. That's mean Kafka Connect infrastructure didn't support this functionality. And here we have sometimes duplication of information in case if some information are missed or you need to reprocess something, you never know about status of this transaction. You cannot manipulate of batch size in the sync part. That means you already grab all information from Kafka and trying to push to the target system. And only one way to manipulate with this, and it's rebuild this component and add some custom code. No request reply. It's very important because this solution work only in one-way connectivity and didn't provide response from the target system. And in case when you are working with HTTP connectors on source part, you never expose some endpoints. That means you can only pull information, but not put. And here we can show you some integration flow which we use on our project. Here you can see system A provides some information to our source adapter. In this layer in the middle, we have a Kafka. After Kafka, we have some business service, and now I explain why. And here we have sync adapters, which provide data from Kafka topics to the target system. What does it mean? How I said previously, Kafka Connect didn't support a lot of manipulation with data. And if you need to implement some business logic, best solution for that, do it in another technology stack. In our project, we chose Apache Camel with Spring Boot and build these business services using this technology. But we still stay Kafka Connect on source and sync part. That means our Kafka connectors, have a very easy implementation and didn't do some difficult logic. In source part, this connector only collect information and put into the Kafka, and after that, business service layer connecting to this topic, take these messages, prepare for the target system format, or maybe make some mapping, etc., put to another topic, and sync adapter reads this information and provide to the target system. From my point of view, it's a good real example of how you can use this technology if you need implement some additional manipulation with data, some logic. I think that's all from my side. Now we can go to the question section.
Dima, if you don't mind, could you back to the previous slide with the schema, what you have shared? And could you please explain where exactly we have the Kafka connectors in this schema? Does it mean that source adapter and sync adapter?
Yes, source adapter and sync adapter. Here, it's a Kafka Connect. Here is Apache Camel solution.
Okay, got it. So looks like we have several questions. If you don't mind, I will start ask this question, and I will start from the generic one. As the source and sync connector, is it possible to have some sort of intermediate processing connectors? So basically what you have explained is a business service. Can you please summarize what kind of option we have and what kind of limitation we have?
Which kind of limitation we have? On source adapter, we didn't have error tolerance. In case when in source adapter we use HTTP protocol, we can't expose some endpoints. We can only pull the source system. Boom, for source part, that's all. For sync part, we cannot manipulate with data and make a difficult transformation, and in this case we need to implement this business layer.
Okay,
and the main problem here, if you need to request reply mechanism, it's not possible to implement using Kafka Connect technology. only one way from source system to the target system without response.
Got it. So the next question will be about authority company. So are there some authorities that can certify community connectors? So in the beginning, you have explained where exactly you can take the connectors.
Yes. This slide. If you need some connectors which supported from some company, have a big community, maturity solution, better to find on Confluent. Because this organization have some control and publish on his page only working solution. Next place, it's Camel Kafka Connect. It's a good solution which provides to us different protocols, but it's not mature still. But Red Hat company work with this, and I hope in future this solution can be possible to run on production.
Okay, thank you. And the next question related to the sequence, pretty interesting question. So can the connector to be configured to maintain message sequence where message ordering is a critical requirement?
Good question. I think it's possible on sync part because all messages which put it into Kafka already have some offset, and you can read step by step these messages if it's important. And you can, on the source part, you can store this message in right sequence using the same key. That means you already read the right sequence, but out of the box, no, it didn't support it, and you need to thinking about it themselves and implement custom, make custom implementation.
Thank you. Moving to the next one. Could you please explain how checking mechanism works for the sync and source? I'm assuming this is a question about what kind of monitoring we have and what potentially is possible.
Yes, about monitoring. Monitoring enabled for whole Kafka Connect infrastructure. That means out of the box, this solution have a list of standard metrics, and you can collect it and use in your operation work. But if you need to implement something new which didn't provide it on this solution, you can make changes on the source code. That means all metrics which you collected from whole environment, not from the concrete Kafka connectors, and only specified metrics which already provided by this solution.
Maybe from your experience, what kind of problem you faced with the embedded mechanism of collecting this kind of tracking and monitoring? What you have added in your implementation to extend it?
Based on our experience, first of all, we have the requirements, non-functional requirements from our customer to implement it. And I think speaking about which profit provides from tracing, it's a very big topic, but if you have this tracing mechanism, it's more easy to understand where you have problem, how many time spans for on the each elements on your integration chain, and about how we implement it. We develop our connectors on scratch, prepare some templates which included all needed place for tracing, and after that, using this template, we built different kind of connectors.
Okay, got it. So the next question, it's not really a question, but mostly just idea. But anyway, I'd like to announce it. So Kafka itself supports data streaming, but not Kafka connectors. Wondering what's the reason? And my guess is Kafka connectors are using HTTP to transport data, which is not effective to streaming. So what do you think about it?
Yes, Apache Kafka, it's a big, it's not a company, it's a big community which provides to us different technology solution. One of it, it's a Kafka. One of this, it's a Kafka Connect, and exactly we have Kafka streams. And here we have some separating of responsibility. That means if you want to use streaming, please use Kafka streams. If you want to use some data transferring from one system to another, you can use Kafka connectors. But in production, you start to build your environment around Kafka products. And sometimes you didn't want to use streams, you want to implement all what you need using Kafka Connects, or vice versa. Maybe sometimes you want to build all using Kafka streams without Kafka Connects. But here we have strictly separating. If you want to streaming, use this one. If you want to data transferring, please use this.
Okay, thank you. During your session, you have already described a lot of limitation of Kafka Connect, but I doubt that means that you shouldn't work with a Kafka Connect. Maybe you can create kind of short guidelines in which project it will be reasonable to work with a Kafka Connect.
Yes, it's a good question, and I think better answered here. How I speak in the start. Here you can see a lot of some database, key-value storage in this picture, etc., etc. And the most popular Kafka connectors, it's a Debezium, which work with the database. And I think for integration between database transfer data from one database to another database, it's a good solution. Or if you need to transfer data from database to some queues, it's a good solution. And if you didn't have stricted non-functional requirement like tracing, metrics, logging, it's a good solution. On my previous project, we have one integration with National Bank where we need to collect information about exchange and post to SAP. In this mechanism, we have only one requirement: post information until the end of date. Here, we don't need exactly once, we don't need error tolerance, etc. We only need to take information via HTTP from National Bank and put this information to SAP. And I think for this task, this is a good solution.
Got your point, and vice versa. Maybe you can list the project when you shouldn't go to the Kafka at all. Kafka Connect, sorry.
Yes, never build the ESB solution using Kafka Connect. Never. Don't thinking about this, because this solution not for this.
Okay, got you. So thank you very much. Looks like we don't have any questions. Guys, maybe the last question and we'll be done for today. And the session will be placed in our channel. Looks like there is no any question. Thank you very much, Dmitry. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you all.
This is
Thank
useful.
you,
Thank you
guys.
so much.